Also thanks to the Honourable Press Minister, Mr Chowdhury, and his lovely wife for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's a real honour to have you here. And finally, last but not least, to Taryn, who is the founder of BritBangla, an organisation, as she already mentioned, has been around since 2003 and has done a lot of amazing work in that time, really tirelessly trying to promote British Bangladeshis of all spheres in the UK and enabling them to assimilate better into the public arena. So thank you to all of you. Now, the theme of today's talk will be in line with BritBangla's mission statement, which is diversity and leadership in the media, what we can do to improve it, and how and why young people should be going into journalism. I'm guessing that most of you are here out of general interest. Maybe some of you do already work in the media, or maybe some of you have younger cousins, brothers, sisters, nieces, children, nephews, or someone in your social circle that you want to encourage to go into journalism. So I hope you do take away something positive from this evening. I'm going to give you a very brief summary of my career. I'm going to whiz through it, so I don't want to be talking for too long. I do want this to be interactive, rather than you have to sit here and listen to me go on and on, for the best part of an hour. But afterwards, feel free to ask me any questions that you want. Once I've given a summary, I'll briefly touch upon diversity and inclusion, why it's so important. I've got a few stats that I want to run by, and then we'll take some questions. So I've wanted to be a journalist. I decided to become a journalist in my early 20s, even though I did a science degree. It's after I graduated that I saw the light, decided that this was my destiny, and this is something that I wanted to pursue for a number of reasons. I've always had a real passion for news and current affairs, always followed the news at home. My father was very much into news and politics, and it's something that my brothers and I discussed from when we were teenagers. I've also loved writing. The creative aspect of journalism is something that I very much like. It's essentially storytelling, which is something that really appeals to me. I've loved reading. So basically it's a combination of these passions that kind of led me to this path. But I didn't go into it straight after graduation. I did a science degree, and then for a number of years I did various things, including working for the civil service full-time, and studying, doing my master's while I was at the civil service. Did that for a few years, went back into full-time education. I got into City University, which has a very well-known journalism department, and it offers a number of master's degrees, and in my time they were offering postgraduate diplomas as well in various aspects of journalism, including newspapers, periodicals, and broadcast. I did the newspapers course. I actually thought I was going to be a newspaper journalist. Television didn't even enter my mind at that stage. I was thinking that I just want to write for the Guardian, and that is what that was my ambition in life. From there, I was taken on at the Daily Express as a trainee reporter. Stayed there for a few years. I then went to London Tonight, which is the ITV regional news channel. Was there for a while. After that, I freelanced for a few years. I kind of went back to newspapers temporarily, just as a reporter. I worked for the BBC for a while. Then I went to Sky News, and I ended up there on the foreign desk for 3.5 years. And that was really when I properly got to grips with foreign news, international news. And it was then that I decided that this is, of all aspects of journalism, this is the thing that I love the most. This is what I'm most interested in. This is what I want to pursue in the long term. 3.5 years at Sky News was excellent grounding. They're a very, very professional outfit. They work you very, very hard. I was doing 12-hour shifts, often overnight. But I really, learned so much. A lot of the stuff that I learned at Sky News, I have carried with me to this day. From Sky, I went to Al Jazeera English, working out of the London offices. I was desk-based. I was a deputy news editor and then a news editor, which is essentially coordinating and overseeing the news stories of the day, whatever those stories might be, liaising with correspondents, liaising with field teams, just really kind of overseeing the whole kind of daily news agenda. But I also started field producing when I was at Al Jazeera. So I was field producer for the Bangladesh elections 2014, for the Rana Plaza, aftermath of the Rana Plaza. We went over and did some series on the tanneries in Bangladesh. I did a lot of stuff, and you may recall back in 2013-14, there was a lot of volatility in the Ukraine. So I was there as a field, I spent a lot of time there and in Crimea covering that story. And I also started my first on-camera reporting while I was at Al Jazeera. So I would pitch stories, they would approve them, and so I managed to get pretty decent kind of initial training in on-camera reporting. Then in 2015, I joined TRT World. It was a new venture, a new channel. I moved to Istanbul. I started off as a senior producer, and within a year I was promoted to correspondent. And it's really in the past, so 3.5 years or so, that I have really done some of the most challenging and most fascinating and interesting stories that I would ever hope to do. I was the main reporter for the Rohingya refugee crisis, which started in August 2017. I went over there 4 times, on one occasion accompanying the Turkish Foreign Minister, Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, and the First Lady, Recep Tayyip Erdogan's wife, Emine Erdogan, and their daughter. They were delivering aid. I was part of the first delegation. I also interviewed the Turkish then Prime Minister, Binali Yildirim, in the camps. I did several trips there. I've covered Syria quite extensively, both inside Syria, as you saw from some of that footage, and from the Turkish border as well. I would say those have been my 2 defining stories since I've been at TRT, but I've done a whole range of other stuff as well, including climbing steep hills and doing the odd light story and climbing steep hills in Istanbul, and including I did a piece to camera doing a Bollywood dance as well, because you've got to have a bit of light with shade. It's on YouTube. If you just type in my name and Bollywood, you'll see it.
Is it a TRT piece?
It's a TRT piece. Yeah. It was for showcase. So that is, I have whizzed through my career, and I've done, I've written op-eds for the national newspapers as well, on a number of socio-political subjects, and for the Huffington Post as well. So that's my career. Now, diversity. I'm just going to say a few very quick words on it, and then we can kind of throw it out there, and we can discuss it. Undoubtedly, things have improved over the past 20 years or so. Nobody can deny that. When I was a kid, it was Trevor McDonald. That was the only, non-white face that we saw. And Zainab Badawi. I don't know if any of you, you're probably quite young, but Zainab Badawi, and every time Zainab Badawi came in, it was like, ooh, she's not white, Things are much different now, and undoubtedly, you turn on the BBC, Channel 4 News, Al Jazeera is a classic example, TRT World, and you see faces from all over the world. So there has been progress, but not enough. Now, it is very difficult to get on screen as a journalist, but don't forget that there are many, for every person that you see on screen, there's going to be 10 people behind the scenes who are building programs, making executive decisions, making editorial decisions. We're really first-class journalists who aren't necessarily in the spotlight, but really deserve full credit for really ensuring that any newsrooms runs in the way that it should. What we are still finding in this day and age, that it is very much a male-dominated industry. When we talk about diversity, we're not just talking about British Bangladeshis or people of black and ethnic backgrounds. We're also talking about women in journalism. And even though you are finding that many, many women are going into journalism, on the lower, mid-level and lower, you'll probably find 50-50. It looks quite balanced, it looks quite equal, but as soon as you get above a certain point, executive producers, directors, even correspondents, even foreign correspondents, war correspondents, I'm actually really in the minority. Most of them are going to be men. Most of them, particularly in the UK, are going to be white, male, and from private schools. So this is something that still hasn't been addressed as well as it should be, and this is something that we really need to have at the forefront of our consciousness for those of us who are interested, for those of you guys who are interested in journalism. So the important thing is diversity is not just about colour, but gender, class, and also people with disabilities. People from working class backgrounds, be they white, brown or black, are finding it just as difficult to get into journalism as people from Bangladeshi backgrounds. Now, I work for an international channel. It's slightly different here because they make a concerted, they recruit from all over the world. There are 50 different nationalities in my workplace in Istanbul. It's the same with Al Jazeera. I was there for a very long time. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the UK journalism kind of field, because we're all British, and I started off working for the national press and national television, and my guesses are that any of you guys possibly do, or people you know possibly do so. And really, so I'll talk a little bit about that and then move on to international channels, because as I say, they do recruit from the world. Now, a lot has been spoken of, a lot of studies have been done on diversity in journalism in the UK. There was actually, let me just quote you this. So the NCTJ is a national journalism body. It runs training courses for journalism students. Now, it carried out a survey in 2017. I know that was only 2 years ago, but I can't imagine much has changed since then. In its survey, it found that journalism students, those students most likely to get a job in journalism within the 6 months of having completed their courses, are where is this? If they are male, do not have a disability, are not from a black or ethnic group, and went to a private school. So for every however many hundreds of people who are going into journalism each year, that group of people who are most likely to get a job within the first 6 months. Many reasons for this. It's also very London centric. You can expect to have practically zero wages or minimal wages in the first 2 years of being a journalist. That rules out many people from backgrounds where where money is just not sufficient, and they don't have that luxury to take 2 years off where they can train and run around a newsroom before they get paid a salary. So that immediately disadvantages people from certain kind of demographics. And it also showed that analysis of national statistics for the NCTJ shows that 5% of journalists work in the UK are from an ethnic group, compared to 9% of all jobs in the economy. So percentage-wise, fewer people from ethnic groups are in journalism than, say, law or engineering or other fields. Journalists are more than twice as likely to come from higher social classes than the overall population, and that is 39% compared to 15%. So it is weighted against people from BAME backgrounds, it would seem. I'm going to round off in a second now. Now, just in terms of British Bangladeshis, in 2011 consensus, I think the number is around 800,000 or so. I mean, that's a very kind of broad figure. That's the total number of British Bangladeshis in the UK, or British people who have some kind of links to Bangladeshi ancestry. Even now, the highest overall relative poverty rate of any ethnic group, British Bangladeshis are among that group, at around 65% of Bangladeshis living in low-income households. Now, this is going back a few years. It may have changed. I can't imagine it's changed that much. However, and get this, they are doing exceptionally well at school. Now, Ofsted, so this goes to show, despite socio-economic disadvantages, Bangladeshis are doing very well academically. So, Ofsted report 2013, British Bangladeshi achievement rate, and the overall achievement rate is 5 or more A star to C at GCSE level, was 61% compared to 56% for white British students and 51% for British Pakistani students, and 61,000 graduates of Bangladeshi descent in 2014, and Bangladeshi children living in the UK have nearly 49% higher chance of on average of a university education than white people, according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies. This all looks very promising, because it shows that despite whatever barriers, obstacles we have, we are marching forward and overcoming those barriers. So this is all good news, but within the industry itself, there isn't a lot of work that needs to be done. I think I'm probably one of the very few, if not only, female British Bangladeshi foreign correspondents working for any international channel. I mean, I don't know if you guys know him anymore. I don't, and I think I probably would have known about
I
it.
don't. I've been doing BritBangla
Yeah,
so
so
long.
if you know, so
me and you are in
probably,
the
yeah.
same circles, but if you
Yeah.
don't know any
Yeah.
more, I mean,
And the thing is, if you're in this industry, you would know.
yeah, I tend to know all the Asian ones, obviously,
yes.
because of my invitations
Yes.
and stuff.
So there you have it. You know,
Thank you for
not many of us in this field, and I
Yeah.
find that very sad. In this day and age, in the year 2020, diversity, lack of diversity, very much remains an issue. It's not as bad as it was 20 years ago, but a lot of work remains.